In today's world, where everyone seems to be obsessed with health, have you ever wondered which foods might be making people gain weight? Is it sugar, which we've all been warned about for years, or is it fat, often blamed for causing heart problems and obesity? In a fascinating documentary, Horizon Sugar v. Fat, twin doctors Chris and Zaan van Tulleken decided to find out by putting themselves to the test. They followed two radically different diets, one focusing on sugar and the other on fat, to discover which food group truly affects our bodies the most. Chris and Zaan are identical twins from the UK, both trained doctors, and they've become well known for their work in television and health documentaries. Despite being highly knowledgeable about medicine and health, they weren't immune to the struggles of staying in top shape in the modern world. Before starting their experiment, both Chris and Zaan were already active and in good physical condition, maintaining a routine that included regular exercise like cycling and strength training. They didn't follow any extreme diets or workouts, but simply tried to stay fit and healthy in their own way. At the start of the experiment, Chris weighed about 165 pounds, while Zaan was slightly heavier at 172 pounds. Both had fairly balanced diets, including vegetables, lean proteins, and whole grains. They weren't eating junk food or living an unhealthy lifestyle, but they were curious to see what would happen if they pushed their bodies to the extreme with two very different diets. The experiment was set up so that the twins would eat completely different diets for a whole month, with each twin focusing on one type of food. Chris would eat a high-sugar diet, and Zaan would eat a high-fat one. The goal was to see which diet would cause the most change in their bodies. Chris's sugar-laden diet. Chris's meals were filled with sugary foods and drinks. Think sugary cereals, pasta, bread, bagels, and fruit juices. These foods were packed with sugar and carbohydrates, but low in fat. Chris had the freedom to eat as much as he wanted, but he stuck mainly to foods like sweet breakfast cereals, fruit, pasta, and rice. His diet aimed to mimic the types of foods that are often packed with sugar in the modern diet. Zaan's fat-focused diet. Zaan's diet was the complete opposite. He ate foods rich in fat, lots of fatty meats like sausages, bacon, burgers, and full-fat cheese. He could also have butter, cream, and oils, but he had to avoid foods that were high in sugar and carbohydrates. The goal here was to see how his body would respond to a high-fat diet and whether it would make him gain weight or affect his health. The surprising results. At first, Chris felt okay despite eating so much sugar. He didn't really feel hungry between meals, and his weight stayed relatively stable. But over time, things started to take a turn. By the end of the month, Chris had gained around 7 pounds. The weight wasn't from muscle, it was mostly from fat, especially around his stomach. But what was more concerning was what was happening inside his body. He developed fatty liver, a condition where fat builds up in the liver, and his blood sugar levels spiked, putting him at risk for diabetes. Despite eating so much sugar, Chris's body couldn't process it properly anymore. Meanwhile, Zaan, who was eating a ton of fatty foods, was losing weight. He dropped about 9 pounds, but things weren't as simple as they seemed. Although he was losing weight, his cholesterol levels, the fats in his blood, shot up, and his body was starting to show signs of potential heart problems. The real surprise came when doctors told Zaan that he was pre-diabetic, even though he wasn't eating sugar. His body had been overwhelmed by all the fat, which affected his heart and overall health. So even though Zand was losing weight, it wasn't necessarily a sign of better health. Sugar isn't the only problem. The most shocking lesson from the experiment was that sugar isn't the only food culprit when it comes to health problems. While Chris's high sugar diet led to major issues like fatty liver and trouble with blood sugar, Zand's high-fat diet also caused some serious health problems. Zand ended up with high levels of bad fats in his blood, which can lead to heart disease in the long run. It's about balance. The twins realized that the real issue wasn't just sugar or fat. It was how much of either we're eating and how often. Processed foods, which are loaded with both sugar and fat, seem to be at the heart of the problem. These types of foods are addictive and can be hard to stop eating, leading to weight gain and health issues over time. After the month-long experiment, both twins reflected on what they'd learned. Chris said he'd learned that cutting out one food group entirely, whether it's sugar or fat, isn't sustainable for long-term health. He pointed out that diets should be balanced, with a focus on whole, minimally processed foods, rather than extreme restrictions. Zand, on the other hand, learned that fat can be just as harmful as sugar if you eat too much of it. He said that even though he was losing weight, his body was still suffering due to the high fat intake. The experiment made him realize that eating a lot of fat, especially the wrong types, could damage his heart and increase his risk of other diseases. The biggest takeaway for both of them? There's no one-size-fits-all answer to what's healthy. Rather than searching for quick fixes or extreme diets, it's important to focus on moderation, eating real food, and avoiding highly processed junk. In a follow-up interview, the twins discussed the results of the experiment. Despite the differences in their diets, both Chris and Zand lost weight, but they encountered surprising health problems. Zand, who followed the high-fat diet, lost 8 pounds, which he attributed to his large consumption of meat, cheese, and eggs. However, he ended up pre-diabetic and had stress on his pancreas, despite cutting out sugar. On the other hand, Chris, who followed the high-sugar diet, lost 2 pounds, but his metabolic health deteriorated, especially due to his high blood sugar and fatty liver. Both twins stressed that extreme diets, whether cutting out sugar or fat, were unsustainable in the long term. Their takeaway was clear. Balance and moderation are key when it comes to healthy eating. As Zand pointed out, it's not about choosing between fat or sugar, but about avoiding processed foods, which are the real issue behind rising obesity levels. In the end, Chris and Zand came to a powerful conclusion. Balance is key. Their experiment didn't prove that sugar is the ultimate bad guy or that fat is the secret cause of all health problems. Instead, it highlighted that a diet made up mostly of processed foods, whether they are sugary or fatty, is the real danger to our health. A balanced diet is essential for maintaining overall health and well-being. Incorporating a variety of fruits and vegetables into your daily meals can significantly contribute to this balance. These foods are not only rich in essential vitamins, minerals, and dietary fiber, but also generally lower in calories compared to processed foods. For instance, a serving of raw leafy vegetables is about 2 cups, while a medium-sized fruit is approximately the size of your fist. Research indicates that consuming at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables daily can reduce the risk of chronic health conditions such as heart disease and cancer. Fruits and vegetables are low in fat, salt, and sugar, and they are a good source of dietary fiber, which can make you feel fuller for longer and prevent overconsumption of food. Incorporating these foods into your diet naturally leads to a reduction in the intake of carbohydrates and fats, which can be beneficial for weight management. For example, vegetables are a great high-volume, low-calorie option, allowing you to eat a lot of them, feel satiated, and consume fewer calories. It's also important to consider the order in which you consume foods during your meals. Starting with a salad or vegetable-based appetizer can help you feel full faster, potentially leading to a reduction in overall calorie intake. This approach aligns with the concept of energy density, where foods like fruits and vegetables provide fewer calories but greater satiety. Processed foods, on the other hand, are typically high in added sugars, unhealthy fats, and sodium, contributing to various health issues, including obesity, heart disease, and diabetes. Examples of processed foods include frozen meals, canned soups, packaged snacks, and sugary beverages. To avoid these, focus on consuming whole, unprocessed foods, and be mindful of food labels, opting for items with fewer artificial ingredients and additives. Comparing modern diets to those of the 1940s to 1970s reveals significant differences. During that era, people generally consumed fewer processed foods and more home-cooked meals, leading to leaner physiques. The rise of advertising and marketing in the food industry introduced a plethora of processed options, making them more appealing and accessible. This exposure often led individuals to try these foods, and over time, some developed preferences or addictions to sweet and junk foods. In contrast, earlier diets were simpler, with a focus on whole grains, vegetables, and lean proteins, contributing to lower obesity rates. Additionally, lifestyle factors played a role. People were generally more active, engaging in physical labor and walking long distances. Today, technological advancements have led to more sedentary behaviors, with many jobs and leisure activities involving prolonged periods of sitting. Incorporating regular physical activity into daily routines, such as walking, cycling, or structured exercise, is crucial for maintaining a healthy weight and overall health. The CDC recommends that adults consume 1.5 to 2 cup equivalents of fruits and 2 to 3 cup equivalents of vegetables daily as part of a healthy diet to support immune function and prevent chronic diseases. In summary, adopting a balanced diet rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and lean proteins, while minimizing processed foods, can lead to better health outcomes. Combining this dietary approach with regular physical activity aligns with the habits of earlier generations, supporting a lifestyle that promotes a healthy weight and reduces the risk of chronic diseases.